Supervolcanoes are the largest volcanoes on Earth. They are 20 times bigger than regular volcanoes with the ability to blow all of humanity back to the Stone Age. But have you ever wondered what it would be like to survive one? Well, today we're going to find out exactly that when we explore the world's largest supervolcano, Yellowstone, and your survival guide to escaping its wrath in one piece. Yellowstone National Park is famous for its geysers, hot springs, and most importantly, its supervolcano. The park itself covers more than 2.2 million acres of land and includes more than half of the Yellowstone caldera, which is also known as the Yellowstone Supervolcano. This supervolcano is so large that it spans across 3 US states, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. In fact, if you were to draw a circle around the perimeter of the entire caldera, the circle would be 43 miles in diameter. That's about the size of 16 American football fields. The reason why this supervolcano is able to be so big is because it sits on top of a hotspot. You see, the Earth's outer layer is made up of huge slabs of rock called tectonic plates. These plates slowly move and float on top of the Earth's mantle, which is a thick layer of hot but solid rock. Now, beneath the surface of the Earth there is a never-ending supply of molten rock. It is constantly being created due to the immense pressure and heat beneath the Earth's surface. This molten rock, otherwise known as magma, pushes up towards the Earth's crust. However, if it reaches a tectonic plate that isn't moving, the magma can only push the plate upwards. And over millions of years, this has created mountain ranges like the Rockies. However, occasionally, the magma will come into contact with a weak area in the crust, and it will melt through the plate and then resurface again. This is where things get interesting. You see, when the magma re-emerges onto the surface, it creates a volcano. For example, Mount St. Helens in Washington state blew its top in 1980 and created a new volcano in the process. So now you understand why some volcanoes can be much larger than others. It's all down to how the magma interacts with the different layers of the Earth's crust. In the case of Yellowstone, the magma plume comes up from deep within the Earth and sits just below the surface of the North American tectonic plate. Over the last 2 million years, this has resulted in the formation of 3 calderas. A caldera is simply a large volcanic crater. The oldest is the Lava Creek caldera, which is about 50 by 30 miles in size. Then there is the Madison caldera, which is about half the size of the first. Finally, there is the most recent, the Mesa Falls caldera, which is only 17 by 12 miles. These calderas stretch across the landscape like enormous scars, telling the story of Yellowstone's violent past. But don't worry, I'm here to tell you that Yellowstone is not an active volcano and has no plans of blowing anytime soon. That's right. The last time it erupted was 640,000 years ago. It is currently in a dormant period, and scientists predict that it will remain that way for at least another 100,000 years. Now I know what you're thinking. Just because it hasn't erupted for 640,000 years doesn't mean that it won't erupt tomorrow. And you're right, anything can happen. But I want you to think of it this way. If Yellowstone did erupt tomorrow, do you really think that the authorities wouldn't know about it? Well, they would actually be able to see signs of an impending eruption well before it happened. And if you want to learn how, keep watching because we are just getting started. You might not have realized this yet, but the ground beneath your feet moves all the time. Every day, various seismic sensors detect earthquakes happening around the world. Most of these earthquakes are too weak for humans to feel, but some can be quite powerful. When an earthquake does occur, the Richter scale is used to measure its strength. On this scale, an earthquake measuring between 3 and 5 on the Richter scale is considered minor. An earthquake between 5 and 6 is considered light, moderate, or strong, depending on the energy released. Earthquakes ranging from 6 to 7 are considered either moderate or strong. Those above 7 are considered major. So what does this have to do with Yellowstone? Well, in simple terms, the Earth rumbles whenever magma is on the move. This means that minor earthquakes in the region are normal. However, if the frequency of earthquakes increases, then this could be a sign that magma is getting ready to erupt. What's important to remember is that an increase in seismic activity could indicate that magma is pushing its way to the surface, but it doesn't necessarily mean that an eruption is imminent. If the United States Geological Survey detects an increase in seismic activity, they will monitor the situation closely for other signs of unrest. If you live in the surrounding area, they may advise you to prepare for a possible evacuation. However, as we mentioned earlier, Yellowstone is currently dormant, and there is no need to worry about an eruption anytime soon. In order for an eruption to occur, the magma would need to rise all the way up from 6 to 9 miles below the surface of the Earth. Even if the magma did start to rise, it would take several months or even years to reach the surface. During this time, there would be an increase in earthquake activity, as well as changes in the shape of the land. There would also be noticeable steam emissions from the ground, along with changes to the temperatures of hot springs and geysers. Scientists would use all of this data to try and predict when the eruption would occur so that everyone could be evacuated safely. As we mentioned earlier, Yellowstone National Park is home to more than 10,000 hydrothermal features, including geysers, hot springs, and mud pots. These features are formed when heated groundwater reacts with the rocks on the surface, creating a variety of fascinating landscapes. But they also provide us with another early warning sign of an impending eruption. You see, all of these hydrothermal features rely on heat from the magma chamber below the surface. If the temperature of any of them changes, then this could indicate that the magma is on the move. For example, in 2016, the water temperature in the Norris Geyser Basin increased by several degrees, which indicated that magma was getting closer to the surface. However, this is just one of many indicators that scientists use to monitor Yellowstone. They also use satellites to measure changes in the shape of the land, as well as gas emissions and even lasers to measure changes in the temperature of the ground. All of this data is collected and analyzed by a team of experts who work around the clock to ensure the safety of those living in the area. One of the most famous and easily recognizable features of Yellowstone National Park is Old Faithful. This geyser erupts every 90 minutes, shooting hot water up to 185 feet into the air. But this predictability is what makes it such a useful tool for scientists. You see, in the event of an eruption, Old Faithful would likely stop working properly. This would give people in the surrounding area a few hours to evacuate before the worst happened. But even if you were to miss the warning signs, there is still plenty of time to escape once the eruption begins. The first thing you would notice is a massive explosion as the magma finally breaks through the surface of the Earth. You would probably also feel the ground shake beneath your feet as the shockwave from the initial explosion radiates outwards. At this point, you need to act fast because the real danger is just beginning. As the magma chamber empties, the pressure inside the volcano decreases. This causes hot gases and steam to be released, which can travel up to 100 miles per hour. These gases are so hot that they can burn anything in their path, including trees and grass, as well as human skin. If you were caught outside, you would need to protect your head and face immediately. Otherwise, you could suffer severe burns or even go blind. Once the initial explosion has occurred, the real danger is just beginning. As the magma continues to erupt, it will create a pyroclastic flow. This is a mixture of hot gas and solid rock that travels down the sides of the volcano. Pyroclastic flows can travel at speeds of up to 150 miles per hour, which is fast enough to level entire forests in seconds. If you were caught in the path of a pyroclastic flow, there would be nowhere to hide. The intense heat and speed would make it impossible to outrun. You would need to get to higher ground as fast as possible, otherwise you would be burned alive. As the eruption continues, the pyroclastic flows will eventually stop, and the ash will begin to fall. Depending on how far away you are from the volcano, you may be able to breathe the air, but it would be filled with so much ash that it would be impossible to see. You would need to cover your mouth and nose with a damp cloth in order to filter out some of the ash particles. And you should also put on sunscreen, because the ash can absorb heat from the sun and burn your skin. Finally, after all of the ash has settled, you would be left in a world of devastation. The once beautiful landscapes of Yellowstone would be covered in a thick layer of ash, making it impossible to recognize. But in the end, you would have survived. Yellowstone National Park is home to a variety of animals, including bison, elk, wolves, and bears. However, the most abundant species in the park are the insects. There are more than 9,000 different types of insects in Yellowstone, which play an important role in the ecosystem. They pollinate plants and also serve as food for birds and mammals. If you are planning to visit Yellowstone National Park, there are a few things that you should keep in mind. First, always stay on marked trails and never approach wild animals. Also, be prepared for all kinds of weather because it can change quickly in the mountains. Finally, make sure to pack plenty of water and food because there is very little available inside the park. With these tips in mind, you'll be able to enjoy all that Yellowstone has to offer. So there you have it, your survival guide to surviving a supervolcano eruption at Yellowstone National Park. Hopefully you learned a thing or two that will help you out in the future. And hopefully you realize just how lucky we are to live in such a peaceful time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.